Hey everyone. Okay, I'm going to try and speak really quickly. Oh, very good. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to talk to you about the Ehlers Danlos Society, which formed officially in 2016 at the New York International Symposium. Our organisation is kind of led by two boards. We have our main board of directors, which focus on all the strategy, and we have our medical and scientific board that really try and steer our research and everything that we're doing in that regard. The biggest thing I think that we do is we facilitate the work of the International Consortium. And this was the group that was responsible for the 2017 criteria and the papers, 18 papers that were in the ACMG. It's comprised of committees that cover all of the different types. You can see here, when we started the work in 2015, that was just the Hypermobile EDS committee, but it's now the Hypermobile EDS and HSD committee, because we realised that just as many in our community will now have the diagnosis of hypermobile spectrum disorder as well as hypermobile EDS. We then have all of these working groups, and you can see the ones in blue are the new ones that we found were very important following that publication. So the pain and psychological group were one group, but we've now split those up. We realised the importance of looking at those individually. We have the pelvic floor group, paediatrics, which was a huge gap, I think, in the 2017 publication, and they are currently doing a literature review to try and catch up. We've got the physiotherapy group, which is now named the Allied Health Group, to encompass podiatry, OT, and everything in between. Haematology, we're seeing anecdotally there's lots of bleeding issues in this community, so we need to find out more. Skin, another huge area of importance. And diet and nutrition. We realise the impact of that as well. So this is a very, very large group of people from all over the world, about 150 people. Each group and each committee has a patient expert in it, so we really do think the patient voice is just as important as well. And we keep them busy, so things didn't stop when we published the papers in 2017. We are asking every single group and committee to put out an annual literature review. We're hoping that that will become a publication, but even if it doesn't, it will end up becoming on our website, so that the community, both medical and patient, are seeing the latest in what we know and what we don't know, and trying to focus on as much evidence-based things as we can. We're also, as Bobby Jones CSF Foundation have done, really looking at the common data elements so that everyone is speaking the same language in research, and we're trying to build those as well. We're also working with our Comorbidity Coalition on the EDS HSD clinical pathway that will be for diagnosis and management and care. And we've also asked the group to come up with 3 research priorities per group and per committee to help us develop a research roadmap so we can really see where we need to get to. So this is what the group are working on over the next 2 to 3 years. And our expected deadline for the Common Data Elements project is June 2021. I think people don't realise just how long these things take and how important it is to do it right. This is our Comorbidity Coalition. We're delighted that we've got lots of partners in this, including Bobby Jones CSF, and we've got Dysautonomia International in there, Mastocytosis Organisation, and it's comprised of these organisations, patient experts, medical experts, and we were established off the back of a PCORI grant, which enabled us to put this together and look at research priorities for our community. And the work that we're doing now is to start the process into the pathways. Now, the pathway work is another area where it really needs to be done right. We need it to be peer reviewed, externally reviewed, and then credited by people such as trying to think of examples that we're trying to go for. Publications, really. So, for example, the one in the UK was the Royal College of General Practitioners. So that was just niche for that group, but we're trying to ensure that these are credited by as many different groups as we can so that people use this. It's no good us just publishing this for us to use. We need people that perhaps don't think this is a credible diagnosis to really look at this. So again, a long-term project. We're not just going to spin things out because it's needed. It needs to be done right. We're doing lots to try and raise awareness all over the world. You can see here the kind of statistics we're talking about. When we launched in 2016, we had 25,000 people following us on Facebook. We now have nearly 78,000. It's even increased since here. Twitter, 2,000, now at, I think, 13,500. Instagram, we had no one following us on Instagram. And now we have, as of this morning, 21.3 thousand, I believe. On our website, we had 20,000 unique visitors in 2016. We now have nearly 300,000 unique individuals coming to this website for information. And that's not just patients, that's experts too. People that are using the hypermobile diagnostic criteria, for example, as pages, something that they bookmark and use daily. And this is really important to remember. Also Inspire, that we're delighted to partner with, that hosts our forum. We had 4,000 people in 2016 and now we have over 70,000 people. So really amazing figures to just show you just how prevalent this really is. We're doing lots to try and promote education, advocacy, and really, again, go on about collaboration and partnerships. We're trying to do as much as we can together. I think we found historically things were fragmented, people were working on their own and in silos, and there's so much more that can come out when people work together, and that's been really important. You can see some examples, and not just speaking at things like Dysautonomia conferences, the CSF conferences that we've spoken at, but also things like the Royal College of Paediatric and Child Health, talking about the importance of mental health in diagnosis and how important that is, talking about suicides that are happening in the community. I spoke at the EU in Brussels about the importance of patient engagement and how important it is for patients to be involved from bench to bedside. So it's not just EDS, we're looking at also the kind of periphery around us in rare and invisible diseases, and really trying to make EDS something that is discussed and thought about in all of these different audiences. We're trying to get out to as many different places as we can around the world. We are currently, we have had conferences in India, in Brazil, Madrid, Maastricht. We've been in various different places in the US. We're going to be in Tokyo later this year. We were in Australia at the end of last year. So we're really trying to ensure that when we say international, we don't just mean the US and the UK. We really are trying to reach out to rural areas, countries that don't have experts in them, to try and make a real difference. We have our medical professionals directory. So often on our helpline, the most common question is, where is there someone that can treat me and look after me near me? And we often don't know of all the people. So often we go and exhibit at conferences and we meet, nurses, doctors, physiotherapists, geneticists that say, I see so many of these patients and we didn't even know they existed. So there's a lot of people caring for EDSs that we don't know about. And so we created this directory, which is for all different disciplines from all over the world, where medical professionals can put their information on there, and patients like you can then go and access that information so they know where there are people looking after them. So I would encourage any professionals in the room, please do make sure your details are on there so people can find you. The HEDGE study, so something very, very exciting. We were donated $1 million last year, and we were completely over the moon when that was matched, and we now have $2 million that is focused on trying to find the genetic causes behind hypermobile EDS. We've committed to doing 1,000 whole genome sequencing on people from all over the world. We've had one recruitment session in Madrid. We've got one coming up in London, in Baltimore, and at our conference in Nashville in the summer. And we actually aim to do them all over the world. So we need to just see how many we have and where we need to go, and where, with the criteria for people to be enrolled in the study is that you have to have a confirmed diagnosis of hypermobile EDS meeting the 2017 criteria. And that was the whole notion behind making those that criteria stricter, because we really needed to have a clean pool of data. We needed to create a tip of an iceberg, because we need to find the answers for this. And we're already re-reviewing the diagnostic criteria for hypermobile EDS. A group of the Hypermobile and HSD committee met in New York just a couple of weeks ago to realise that we do need to constantly be reviewing this. Is it working in everyday life? Is this a realistic thing that maybe just works for research, but does it work clinically? So we are reviewing that, and I expect that an updated version of the criteria will be out at some point. So I would recommend anyone that wants to be part of this study visit our website. All the details are on there. You have to be on our global registry to take part in that, and I would again encourage everyone to make sure that you are on that. It takes 15 to 20 minutes of your time, and at the moment it's a registry where we're asking people to put their hands up, and we've purposely not made it too overly detailed at this stage because we want to wait for the common data elements to be out before we really add the detail in there about all the comorbidities and everything else. So once you're on there, you tick a consent button, and the hope is that we will then resurvey you over the years as more research questions come out, as we partner with other researchers that want to use this registry. But amazingly, we've got nearly 6,000 people on there, and we only launched it in August. So if we are talking about the kind of numbers we think we are, 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, 1 in 5,000, we need to prove it, and we can't until you get yourselves on that registry. So please, please, please help us by doing that. We're also doing as much collaborative research as we can. So not outside of the 2 million, we also have given out approximately so far $500,000 this year. We're about to announce another 200,000 and another 300,000 in Nashville. So we're trying to encourage as many people to do research in these areas as possible. And it's just not been there before. There wasn't that kind of level of funding for EDS research, and you can see it in the publications out there. There was this really long period of time, 20 years, where there was no updated criteria, where people really weren't publishing, where everything was based on anecdotal, because you've got so few specialists around the world. They are treating all these patients, they then don't have time to publish. And although that's a reality, we have to get the evidence out there so that more people will take it up and help this burden of waiting lists that we have and people not getting diagnosed. Another thing that we launched is EDS Echo. Now, Project Echo started out in New Mexico, and it was led by someone called Professor Aurora for hepatitis C. And he realized that he was treating, hundreds and hundreds, thousands of patients who were traveling from all over the country to see him. And people were waiting a really, really long time to see him. They were becoming sicker by the journey to get to him. Sound familiar? So he created this model, and he started training other medical professionals so that they could be treating people with hepatitis C, and he actually improved things so much that this is now a worldwide program that is in over 100 different diagnoses and illnesses, and lots of different people have taken it up, hospitals, academic institutions, hospices, and we are the first non-profit that is doing an international echo, and we are doing EDS Echo. And the concept of it is that you're moving knowledge, not patients, through telementoring. So we have 2 hubs in the US and the UK, and once a week approximately, it's not literally every single week, but we're aiming to do it. I think it's 9 or 10 programs in a session. All the dates for the whole of this year are on our website. It's for medical professionals only that are actively caring for patients with EDS. And the idea is that you call in, and there's a 15-minute presentation on different areas around EDS, and then the rest of the time is de-identified patient presentations. So when there's specialists that have never treated anyone with EDS before and they want advice on how to do it, this is what you do. You can dial in every single week, get advice from the experts in these 2 hubs, so it covers the 2 different time zones, and we are aiming by 2022 to have 1,000 new experts looking after EDS. So this is a really exciting program, and you can pick up more information about it on our table.
I'm just going to take that, and we're going to switch to me doing it manually because it's Dr. McCallum's needs to leave.
Sorry?
The pointer is Dr. McCallum's, and he's going to go.
I see.
So
okay.
I'm going to
no problem.
Sorry.
No problem. Next slide, please. Okay, so collaboration really is at the heart of everything that we're doing. We really believe that together we're stronger. We're very, very excited about the different partnerships we're doing. We're delighted to be part of the Neuro Connect Alliance, and I think it's really worthwhile when people come together. Next slide, please. And I wanted to just take this moment to talk to you a little bit about what we know is the patient experience living with this. And if there's any professionals in the room, this is directed at you, but also something for you all to take back to and try and think about when you are in the room with professionals that perhaps aren't listening to you, to try and get this message across. We know that within EDS there's a vast spectrum. Not only are there different types, 14 of them, within each type there's a different spectrum. Then there's HSD, within that there's a different spectrum. And people can be living quite a good quality of life, no wheelchair, and they can be diagnosed with hypermobile EDS. And then you can have people that are in a wheelchair, TPN, really, really struggling, and they've got HSD, and it's very, very hard to get your head around. And so it's important for professionals and patients to remember that there is this very vast spectrum. Next slide. And we all have a really horrific journey to diagnosis. Myself took 12 years to be diagnosed, and that is on average 10 to 12 years the length of the time to be diagnosed. And on that road there are a lot of hurdles. People are worried about insurance. If I get this, will I be insured? If I don't get this, will it make it worse? Will it make it better? People aren't believed. They're told they're a hypochondriac. They're told it's all in their head. It's growing pains. All these things that you hear again and again and again, and it really makes things worse. And because of this journey, you're deconditioned. You're getting much sicker, both physically and psychologically. You've got multiple doctor's visits. You're being bounced from doctor to doctor. No one's listening to you. No one's seeing the whole picture. They'll just see one siloed part of your body and not think about how that all joins up together. And of course, all across the world, we're seeing different examples of child protection fears. In the UK, it's very much about FII, Munchausen's by proxy. In the US, there's a lot of fears about fracturing, bruising. But it's just this lack of education and inability to think about EDS when this person walks in the room. And what we're seeing is this collection of hurdles on this long road to a diagnosis. And at the end of it, people are just so much worse than they need to be, and we really need to change that. We think that if people are actually diagnosed when their symptoms begin, their quality of life could be so much greater. And that validation is everything. Next slide, please. These are the kind of things that we all know we've felt. And when you're in that room, finally, you're feeling mixtures of fatigue. Not just physically fatigued, but you're absolutely exhausted by this entire process that's led you up to this moment where you're in front of that doctor. Thank you. You're scared. You're fearful of what they're going to say, what they're not going to say. Are they judging you? What does that mean for your circle of friends, for your family, for your future, for your career, for your education, and everything that comes with it? There's often immense pain, so much pain. I think that's one of the most consistent things that we hear people speaking about. And it's not just that physical pain as well, it's that grief, it's that emotional pain. There's a lot of anxiety. Am I being believed? Are they truly listening to what I'm saying? What does this mean for me? Will I end up in a wheelchair? What does this mean? There's depression that comes with that as well. People are very depressed when they get this diagnosis, but actually people are really depressed when they don't get that diagnosis. And it's a real mixture of understanding what that means. And something we're talking a lot more about at the moment is those effects leading to these kind of PTSD symptoms. Again, this kind of battleground of that journey to diagnosis that people don't realise. You come out with war wounds from it, and you have this distress, and you have these presentations that people really don't understand how important they are. Next slide. Time. How often have you waited months, years for an appointment, and you have very little time in the room? In the UK, sometimes it can be as short as 15 minutes, and you've got your whole body from your head to your toe to get through, and everything else that comes with it. So, and often in the UK, you can wait a month to 6 weeks. I know in the US, Dr. Claire Francomano's waiting list is 3 years. Now, okay, you get an hour, 2 hours maybe, but how do you squeeze your whole life and 3 years into just an hour or two? It's incredibly hard. So preparing for those appointments, really listing out what your problems are, where your priorities are, what you really want them to focus on is very important. Next slide, please. And trying to make professionals realise they don't have to be scared of us. There's actually no such thing as an EDS specialist, and people find that insane, but there's not. There's not one doctor that can look after your whole multi-systemic issues. You've got a GI specialist, you've got a neurologist, you've got a geneticist, you've got a rheumatologist, and so on. And all it is one person that's taken the time to actually learn about this community and what it means. And so when people say, I'm trying to find an EDS specialist, you're not going to find one. What you need to think about are the symptoms that are bothering you the most, and think about the best person for you to see to treat those. And understanding as well that this is a chronic condition that sometimes and often, more than not, there's not actually going to be a doctor that can actually help that. And it's really understanding the mind and body connect and what you can do to try and help yourself in the best way to learn to dance with this chronic condition that isn't ever going away. But we're trying to tell doctors, don't be scared of us. Just because we present with all these multi-systemic issues, it doesn't mean that you can't try and unravel them and begin to care for them. Next slide, please. I say time and time and time again, through my own personal experience, through others that I listen to in the community, validation is everything. For you to be listened to and believed is often the first step to beginning to heal and learn to live with this condition. After years of being told it's in your head, it's not real, just learn to live with it. To actually have someone sit there and listen to you and validate what you're going through is everything. And I think medical professionals don't realise this enough, that if they just took the time to sit and listen to you and believe you, it doesn't matter if they think, this doesn't mean that it's this. It's your story, it's your truth, and that's what you've experienced. And I think if more professionals really listened and heard what people were going through, it would make a big, big difference. Believe what's being said, understand the whole picture, not just physically of what's in front of you, but seeing the whole picture of where they've come from to get them to the place that they are in front of you. Like I said, remembering that journey to diagnosis and the impact it can have. Next slide. Our strength does begin with hope. We're doing great things at the Ehlers Danlos Society, and I would really ask all of you to check out what we're doing, get involved, help us with the registry, help us with the HEDGE project, and really believe that it's a time for some hope. It's a time for some change. It's been a really long time coming, and a lot has happened in 2 short years, and I'm really excited to see what the future will hold. I hope in a couple of years' time we'll be talking about the different genes that are responsible for hypermobile EDS, how many more doctors are willing to look after this, and all the evidence out there that we've anecdotally been saying we know is there, but we've been waiting so long. Next slide, please. Acknowledgement and thanks to all these people. Next slide, please. And here's our contact details. If you ever want to contact us or me directly, this is how you get in touch. Please don't be scared to reach out, ask us any questions. We have an outstanding helpline team that run an email helpline, a phone helpline, and we now have virtual monthly support group meetings for those that maybe can't ever get out of their bed, get out of their house, or they don't have anything local to them. You can just dial in now every month and speak to people that can help you and care. Thank you all very much.